It's Mary Sheila, and welcome. I am going to be talking with my good friend Pat Miller about the immune system. Something we're all thinking about, how to boost the immune system to be strong, to face whatever is out there, to protect yourself. There's so many reasons we want to have a good, strong immune system. I am in Occidental, right outside of downtown where I live. Pat is a good friend of mine and also has a business called Bohemian Stoneworks. He makes gorgeous concrete countertops all over the North Bay. And he's also really into mushrooms. So today we're going to go out into the woods and find some of the mushrooms that Pat harvests in the wild for the immune system and share a little bit about the benefits of these mushrooms. And then we'll take you into the kitchen and show you how we're going to process them. So welcome.
Thank you. What we're looking at today is the artist conch. It is a polypore mushroom, very common to the west coast of California and found throughout the U.S. And it turns out this is very closely related to the reishi mushroom of China, which has 2,000 years of research being used as a traditional medicinal medicine. The reason it's called the artist conch is this white area where the pores are. If you take something hard, you can draw on it, and it creates a brown line. And so someone who's artistic, not like myself, can use this as a canvas and create beautiful prints. But the main thing is we're going to use this and make tea out of it, and we're going to harvest it right now. Just by breaking it off the log.
And before you do, just to say, so one of the things, this being related to the reishi mushrooms, right? So reishi is normally grown in China and maybe other places too. So this is like our local Western mushroom that has the same qualities as in the same family. So this is a very supportive, immune boosting mushroom. And we'll talk more about some of the why and how it gets in there and raises the immune system. But for now, we're just going to actually harvest this, and he's going to show us his technique for harvesting.
All right, here we go. You see these rings here, that's every year that it's grown.
Oh, wow. So this is an old mushroom.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. And look at that beautiful white underneath. And do you use that when you make the medicine too?
Yeah, that's the freshest part of it.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of growing out from that, and then it makes another layer.
Yeah.
Woo! Isn't that beautiful? So this is the artist conch. And in this family, is that one of the main identifying characteristics is the white underneath?
Yeah, and there's some other ones. There's the red belted conch that grows on fir trees, dead fir trees. And it's very much like this, but it has a red band in the front of it.
Does that have medicinal?
Same medicinal.
Nice, nice. You know, when we're talking about mushrooms, they say that there are old mushroom hunters and there are bold mushroom hunters, but there are not old, bold mushroom hunters. So if you're excited by this, you just always want to know what you're doing and get confirmation from somebody who does know. And so, like your friendly Italian neighbor might know, maybe not, but just, check it out. Don't do anything silly.
Yeah. And to add to that, this is called a polypore, which is many pores instead of gills. There are no polypores that are poisonous.
Woohoo! So you can, still get confirmation, but you can kind of play out there.
Yeah.
So we just harvested this, and now we're going to go harvest some other ones.
Right, so turkey tails.
Turkey tails. Well, sometimes when you're mushroom hunting, you're going to find yourself in some precarious situations and places because you got to find where the mushrooms are growing. And these are the turkey tails.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about the turkey tails, Pat.
These are also found in China, and years and years of research on these. And again, they contain the same antiviral, antibacterial, and anti-cancer properties, just like the artist conch. And they're all around the U.S. They grow here throughout the winter. We're here in March, and we found this log, which is just incredibly dense with them.
Yeah, and so you could see that they also have what distinguishes the turkey tail is this bright white. So sometimes you're in the woods and you'll see something that looks like a turkey tail and you turn it over and it'll be brown. Well, it's a different, in like you said before, they're not poisonous in this family,
Right.
but you're looking for the white. That's the true turkey
and
tail.
polypore without gills. If it has gills, don't touch it, because there is one that looks like the turkey tail, but it has gills, and that's not the one you want.
Yep. So this mushroom again is just a really great for the immune system. It really turns the immune system on.
Correct.
And because there is a whole idea even around cancer where the immune system is not working properly, and that's part of why cancer is called the silent killer, because the immune system is not activated to go after that. So when you add nutrients that talk to and work with your immune system, then it tells your immune system to turn on, and then your immune system starts to go after things. And that's really the point behind a lot of medicinal mushrooms and adding them into your diet. And we're going to show you some ways to do that in the kitchen.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, let's harvest some.
All right. Don't fall. Kind of right by where a power line is hooked up, but this is just a beautiful log, and these are really, really fresh. So like we said before, it's March. They're real fresh and beautiful, and so now's the time to get them, because you can dry mushrooms. You can dry them, careful there. You can dry mushrooms as well. So, it's the same thing where when they're in season, you harvest them, you dry them, and then you have them for a longer period of time, right? Just like you can your tomatoes, or you might dry your seaweed. And so you just want to make sure that you, get them while they're fresh, get them while they're hot, so you can boost your immune system all year long, because that's really the point.
Okay, that should probably do it.
All right, perfect. So thank you so much. Mushrooms and tree, and now we're off to the kitchen.
Yep.
So here we are in Pat's kitchen, and we have our artist conch and our turkey tail, and we're going to show you how to process those to be able to make a tea. And this is actually what the finished product looks like. So this is the turkey tail, and it's all dry and shredded and maybe Vitamixed.
Yeah.
And this is the artist conch. So beautiful. So let's see how you process that.
Okay. Well, this is the artist conch that we broke off of the fallen tree out down there. And so it has some residual wood on it. So the first thing we're going to do is cut that wood off. It's going to be pretty tough. All right, now the next step is to get it into about inch size slices. There we go.
Oh yeah. So these mushrooms, as we showed you earlier, each ring is another year. Sort of how the trees grow, right? They grow with rings from the inside out. So it's definitely a very hard mushroom. And one other really amazing thing about mushrooms is they are, these are polypores, so they're different because they grow right on the dead trees, but a lot of mushrooms that come right out of the earth, it's actually the mycelium underneath the forest floor that connects all of the mushrooms. And the mushrooms are actually the fruit of the mycelium. But the mycelium is almost like the nervous system of the forest. So even if a tree over here needs more phosphorus or more nutrients, it's actually through the mycelium that nutrients will end up traveling. And even calling a mushroom or the mycelium the nervous system, that's actually one great thing about mushrooms is they are very calming to the nervous system and helpful for mood stabilization. So, as much as they've got all the immune benefits, they also have a lot of benefits to just boost and increase and support the mood. And thanks for doing all that shopping, Pat. That's not, that's hard work. And I know sometimes you use some of your tools from your stonework business.
Yeah, if you get these when they're real old, they can be very woody. I tried to use a bandsaw yesterday and ended up breaking the blade. So it's best to get the young ones.
Okay. And this one, do you have an idea of how old this one
This
might
is
have been?
probably 3 years old.
3 years old? Oh, wow. Wow. And this will make medicine for a long time, right?
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
is probably, when we get done with all this, we're probably looking at 3 months
3 months supply. Nice.
of making tea twice a day.
Making tea twice a day. And so that's what Pat does, is he makes a tea, and we're going to show you the tea too. So these aren't necessarily mushrooms you're going to stir fry or, you know.
But you can make stock out of.
But you can make stock. Nice. So yeah, that's one thing that I do. So we've been big mushroom hunters for a while, and we have all these dried mushrooms in the cabinets. And so now every time I make a broth or a stock, I just reach up and I just grab a few of whatever it is that we have. And so that I'm getting the mushrooms and the medicinal qualities. And pretty much every mushroom has medicinal qualities. And you know, they are really good, again, for the immune system. They're immune modulators. So sometimes people have immune systems that are out of balance. You know, one part is too high and the other, that we see that in autoimmunity. And so, you know, mushrooms can help modulate certain types of autoimmune conditions. And also they are just great at activating.
All right, so now we're processing the turkey tails, and it's a little bit easier than cutting up the artist conch into chunks. Both of these mushrooms contain a molecule called the beta-D-glucan. It's a polysaccharide, which means many sugar molecules hooked together, and it's makes up about 30% of the cell walls in both of these mushrooms. It's water soluble, so when you boil it in tea, you're releasing that into the tea. And it's the main component that stimulates the immune system.
And, you know, a big part of the immune system that it affects is the innate immune system. And that's the immune system that we're born with. That's always protecting us from the moment that we're born. And then we've got the adaptive, which is, you know, recognizing older pathogens, right? So this is just, mushrooms are really going to keep your overall strength. And, you know, and then just also they have a big calming effect. And if we're talking about the immune system, we do want to talk about, you know, being calm and not being super stressed, you know. So while we're filming this, we're having the coronavirus breakout, right? And so people are thinking about, how can I boost the immune system, right? So how can you? And one of it is just, you know, putting things in your body that supports it, enhances it, is protective of it, modulates it. And the benefit of mushrooms too is they calm the nervous system. So a calm nervous system is key. If you're in fight or flight, like, you're more susceptible to pathogens. You know, so mushrooms are very antiviral, antibacterial, and immune enhancing.
That reminds me, the turkey tail is used commonly in China for pulmonary disease. And guess what? The coronavirus is lung centered.
Yep. Great. So now that we've got all these processed, so you're going to put these also by the wood stove?
Yeah, and on the wood stove it takes a couple days for it to dry out. The oven would take 6 hours, but I made some 2 days ago that are ready to take to the next step.
Yeah, and I actually just harvested some last week, and I just left them in I found them in my jacket pocket a few days later. And they're not super wet, so they don't, you know, they're not going to mold out really quick on you. But then you can just leave them. I just put them in a basket. You can put them on a plate in your kitchen, and they'll dry out. It just might be a few more days. So that's the nice thing. And probably with that too, you could leave it. But you just don't want to leave it where it stays damp, because then you might run into.
If you left this in a damp environment, it will turn white, because that will be the mycelium starting to grow on the outside.
Oh.
So you can use these to actually grow new mushrooms.
Oh, nice, nice, great.
There's our cubes. We're going to put them on a cookie sheet, and then the next step is to dry these. And I did a batch a few days ago and put them on my wood stove, which we'll show you in a second. But they can also go in the oven. The lowest setting on my oven is 170 degrees, and I've done it in there before, and in like 6 hours they would be dry. I also have some shiitake stems. I cook with shiitakes, and I cut the stems off, and those can also be made into tea.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, that's great. If you don't have access to go out and harvest your own mushrooms, or you're not comfortable doing that, you know, when you do cook with shiitakes, you cut the stems off. And so there, now you've got some good medicine, and just dry those rather than composting them.
Right. And then you know when the turkey tails are dry enough because they just break, they kind of snap.
Like paper.
And these are just hard. So, okay, so let's...
So we're going to use the Vitamix, and Pat's going to put them all in there. We were just talking about, you know, if you don't have a Vitamix or a blender that's can really break things down, you can use a coffee grinder to break down your mushrooms.
I'm going to put those in there.
Oh, sure. And then if you also don't have either of these, when you are cutting your mushrooms up, you can actually then cut your mushrooms even finer and then just boil them longer when you make your tea. All right, here goes. Woohoo! So it's real fine, it's real light, it's almost like paper or sawdust, right? And so now you're going to add
I'll do the
shiitakes in with the artist conch.
Yeah, and there's no reason to separate these. I just wanted to show them the two different.
Right.
You can put them all together.
And I'm sure there's some synergistic effects with the two different mushrooms together. Woo, it's powdery.
Yeah. I mix it until the loud clunking stops.
Okay, yeah. It takes a little while. It's about a minute or so of blending. Mm-hmm. But these blenders should be able to handle that. And again, this is totally into a powder, and it's kind of warm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So here we have our finished product. And wow, that was one artist conch. Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit in there.
That was about half of one.
Yeah, but half of one.
Yeah.
So that does make a lot of medicine. And then here's our shiitake. So yeah.
Yeah, and we could just blend them together. We could grind them together or blend them together now.
Right. Okay.
All right. Well, we got our 2 containers of our powdered artist conch and the turkey tail, and we're now going to make some tea out of it. I kept them separated. They could go together. There's no rhyme or reason on that. And I've just developed this taste where I use 2 half cups of the artist conch in boiling water and 1 of the turkey tail.
Nice.
Okay. Now I gotta warn you that when this starts boiling, it's gonna want to overflow.
Oh, okay.
So I keep an eye on it. I stir it in a little bit with just this little stick. Could be a spoon. And then as soon as it starts boiling, it's gonna foam up. And at that point, you want to turn it down, and I'll maybe even move it off to the side. And then after about a minute or 2, it will subside. Now, there's different ways of making tea. Online, it talks about making a half gallon's worth at one time and then storing it in the refrigerator. But boiling it for 30 minutes. What I find is if I make a pot and boil it for 3 minutes, make myself some tea, I strain it, and then I put the pieces back in, and then the next day I add some more water to it and cook it another 5 or 10 minutes. I can do that for 3 days, and I still get about the same strength in each cup.
Nice. Yeah. So it's just something that stays on your stove.
Yeah.
And and I mean, that's a good thing, because a lot of times we want to take our medicine, right? We want to make sure we take our supplements or our medicine, but we forget. But when something's right there in your stove, you're like, oh, I could just heat that up again.
Yeah, so every morning I make a cup of mushroom tea, and then I have a cup of coffee and my breakfast. And then at night I have a cup of mushroom tea with my dinner.
And you were telling me earlier that when you started making this tea a couple years ago and having it about twice a day, or once or twice a day, that you have gotten sick way less.
Yeah, I typically, it was about 2.5 years ago, I was having...
starting to boil it?
Yeah, so I'll let it go. I was having about 3 to 4 colds a year. My staff has kids, and they bring the bugs into the shop, and I end up getting colds 3 to 4 times a year. I started doing the tea, And this last fall, I had one cold, and that's in 2.5 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, so you can see it. It's boiling. It's foaming up a little bit. It looks like it's doing okay. I'm going to shut it down so it doesn't go over. But this will subside after about a minute or two. The other thing is, this tea can be used as a stock in soups.
Yes.
And according to some of the articles I read, it has an umami flavor.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, I mean, mushrooms do. They add that umami, which is considered the sixth flavor, and it's like that yum. You know, even in soy sauce and things like that, we find umami. Or if you mix, you know, a fig and bacon and get that combination, or you know, sometimes we eat cheese with apples, even that combination. And mushrooms just have that umami flavor. So when you add that to a stock, you're going to get the richness. And it's hard to describe it totally because it's a flavor. But I will say, you know, one of the things about mushrooms too is they are high in B vitamins and they are high in minerals, right? Because they're pulling the minerals from the earth. So there's a lot of selenium, and there's even some vitamin D in them. And actually, you can even dry your mushrooms in the sun, and that will increase the vitamin D in the mushrooms. So there's lots of ways to use them. And you know, you were talking earlier about the oils in the like the terpenes.
Yeah, so the beta D glucans are one component that seems to boost our immune system, but there's also antioxidants and I can't remember the scientific name, but terpenes are present, and they're an oil-based substance. And if you could see in the pot here, you would see a kind of an oily film on top. That's where they're at right now.
Nice. So we're extracting them out of the mushroom and into the water that we're going to drink as tea.
Yeah, you can also buy tinctures where they take alcohol and use the same type of thing in alcohol to create tincture drops that you can take. But I just rather have it in the tea.
Tea. I mean, if you think about our immune system, right? It's all of our waterways in the body, our lymphatic system, and it has to protect us. It has to travel through our waterways. So hydration is so critical when it comes to boosting your immune system. So tea is sort of the, you know, secret ingredient to making sure it's one way to really introduce, right? So if we're drinking, you know, sugary soda, we're going to deplete and bring down our immune system. But if we're drinking herbal teas and mushroom teas and water and, you know, lemon water, that's boosting the immune system, because the more we can flush things out of the body, the more we can protect ourselves.
Okay, it's been, I'm guessing, about 3 minutes. So at this point, turn the heat off.
Bring that in.
And what I use is one of these gold coffee filters and a ladle. And I ladle in a number of spoonfuls.
Number of ladles.
Yep. And then that will filter out.
Look how rich that is too. So if you're, you know, like a coffee lover, and it's going to be bitter.
It's really not that bitter.
It's not that bitter, just a little bitter.
I don't know if you've had chaga tea before. It's really good. This isn't quite as good as chaga, but it's still pretty good.
Nice. Awesome.
And some for our camera.
Some for our camera girl.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's probably hot.
I know. Be careful. Oh, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely it is coffee-ish to me. Yeah. It does have a little of that bitter. And it's very, you know, it to me that it has such an earthy tone. Yeah. So, well, cool. All
right.
So I hope you enjoyed the show where we actually went from start to finish making mushroom tea. We were in the forest, and we'll put some notes down below too around the kinds of mushrooms we use, so you can research them further for yourself. And, here's to boosting your immune system and staying healthy in our world today. And thanks for watching. Subscribe and all that good stuff.